Maui, the hero who snared the sun's son. Long, long ago, when the world had not yet taken the shape we know today, when volcanoes still roared with fire, when the ocean winds still carried the breath of the gods, there lay far out in the boundless sea a chain of emerald islands, a place where people, nature, and the divine existed in a sacred bond. That place was Hawaii. On this land, every stone, every stream, every whisper of the wind held a story. And among the greatest of all, passed down through countless generations, is the tale of Maui, the hero who dared to challenge the sun. If you listen closely, within the murmur of the waves crashing against the shore, within the rustle of the wind sweeping through the palms, you may hear the voices of the ancestors, speaking of a time when daylight fled too swiftly. The sun then was not as it is now. It raced furiously across the sky, like a hot-tempered being who cared nothing for the mortals below. No one had enough time to plant their seeds, no one could harvest their crops. The people of Hawaii lived in hardship, for darkness swallowed most of their days. They sighed, they worried, they prayed, but still, the sun sped on, relentless. It was in those difficult days that Maui appeared. Maui was no ordinary man. He was a demigod, born of a goddess and immortal. With the blood of both gods and humans flowing in his veins, Maui possessed extraordinary strength and sharp wit. Yet beyond his power and wisdom, he was famed as a trickster, mischievous, daring, always eager to test the limits of the world. They say that even as a child, Maui found ways to bend the order of creation through his playful schemes. Once, Maui transformed into a small bird and soared high above to steal the secret of fire from the gods, bringing it down to humankind. Another time, he went fishing, but instead of catching ordinary fish, Maui cast his magical hook into the deep and pulled entire islands from the ocean floor. Thus, the Hawaiian Islands were born, each one like a giant fish resting in the vast Pacific. And so, the people believed that whenever they gazed upon a long, curving shoreline, it was the scar left behind by Maui's great fishing line. But of all his feats, the most legendary, the one that etched Maui's name into eternity, was the day he chose to confront the mighty sun itself. At first, the idea sounded impossible. How could a mere man, even a demigod, ever hope to catch the sun, that blazing orb of light, so radiant and fierce that even the gods themselves held it in awe? Yet Maui was not one to surrender easily. He saw the villagers lamenting their withered crops. He heard the cries of hungry children. He felt the injustice of a world where the sun cared only for itself, ignoring the lives struggling below. And so Maui swore an oath: he would catch the sun, teach it a lesson, and force it to share its light more fairly. But determination alone was not enough. How does one capture the sun? Maui began to prepare for his daring plan. He went to his mother and asked for a magical rope. His mother, a powerful goddess, wove the rope from her own long, shining hair, binding it with ancient enchantments. It was no ordinary rope, but a weapon infused with divine strength, strong enough to hold even the sun itself. The rope shimmered with divine power, strong enough to restrain even the greatest of forces. Maui grasped it tightly, his heart swelling with faith. He chose Haleakala as the place of action. This sacred mountain towered high over the island of Maui, rising like a throne that touched the heavens. It was said to be the very place where the sun first rose, where its light began its journey across the vast ocean. Maui knew that only on Haleakala would he have the chance to face the sun directly. That night, Maui began his climb. Darkness wrapped the world, the wind howled past his ears, yet he pressed on without fear. Each step he left upon the mountainside was firm, steady, filled with determination. He carried with him the magical rope and a great club carved from sacred wood, the weapon with which he would subdue the sun. All night long, Maui climbed, through thick forests, across deep ravines, along treacherous cliffs. With every step, it was as though the voice of the earth and sky whispered, "Maui, are you strong enough to do this? Can you truly overcome the sun?" But Maui only smiled, his eyes blazing in the darkness, his gaze unshaken, as if to reply, "I will succeed." When at last he reached the summit of Haleakala, the world was still veiled in night. Yet far on the horizon, a faint glow began to rise, the first sign of dawn. Maui quickly spread the rope, shaping it into a great snare, then hid himself behind the rocks, waiting. His heart pounded, not with fear, but with the thrill of destiny. Then the sun appeared. First came a faint glimmer, then the full, blazing orb rose from the horizon. Its brilliant rays spilled across the land, filling the world with fire and light. Heat poured forth, the earth trembled, the stones cracked. The sun emerged proud, mighty, like a sovereign king. It began its familiar charge across the heavens, racing like an untamed horse. But this time, it did not know someone was waiting. At the very moment the sun passed overhead, Maui leapt forth and cast his magical rope. The rope streaked through the air like a shining halo, and in that instant, it wrapped tightly around the rays of the sun. Caught off guard, the sun writhed and flared, blazing with such brilliance that the whole sky seemed to explode. But Maui held on, gripping the rope, anchoring it with all his strength. A fierce battle began. The sun roared, its burning light shattering stone, setting trees aflame. Yet Maui did not falter. He braced himself and swung his sacred wooden club, striking again and again, shouting, "O arrogant sun, hear me. You have been too fast, too selfish, leaving nothing for humankind. From this day forth, you must change. You must slow your journey, you must share your light more fairly, you must allow. So that the crops may have time to grow, and so that people may live in abundance." The sun raged, but the more it struggled, the tighter it was bound. At last, exhausted, it could resist no longer. In a blaze of radiant light, the sun spoke, its voice echoing across the heavens. "Maui, you have bested me. From this day forward, I shall slow my course. I shall stretch the daylight for humankind. I shall grant longer hours of light, so that the fields may flourish, so that life may prosper. But remember this, never forget that I am still the sun, and I do this only because you have proven your strength and your will." Maui smiled and loosened the rope. The sun continued its journey across the sky, but this time, more slowly. Its light poured across Hawaii, the days grew longer, the harvests thrived, and the people rejoiced in abundance. From that moment on, the mountain of Haleakala became a sacred symbol. The people passed down this story through countless generations, as a testament to courage, to wisdom, and to unwavering determination. They believed that each sunrise at Haleakala was not just the dawn of a new day, but also a reminder of Maui's triumph, the hero who dared to snare the sun. And so, the legend lives on. When you stand atop Haleakala at dawn, watching the golden orb rise slowly from the horizon, you can feel something sacred in the air. You remember that once there was a Maui, with mighty hands and a fearless heart, who bound the sun, gifting the world with long, radiant days. Perhaps that is why, in the heart of the Hawaiian people, Maui is more than just a hero. He is a symbol of resilience. Whenever they face hardship, they remember Maui, that no matter how great the adversary, no matter how blinding or relentless the challenge, with faith and determination, humankind can change even the order of the universe. And so the story, the tale of Maui who snared the sun, is still told, still sung, still echoed in the beat of the pahu drum, in the rhythm of the hula, in the whisper of the sea breeze, as an eternal epic of Hawaii.